Good afternoon and welcome to Metra AV Tech Tips. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And welcome aboard. So before we get into that, go through the usual, please subscribe and...
So, yeah, we'll go ahead and go into that. So everybody, thank you so much for checking in, of course. I think we're going to be talking about some stuff, the final episode of our 6-part series about basic networking knowledge. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to set up a network, designing a network system for a network. Now, before we get into that, of course, like, share, subscribe, hit that little bell notification to let you know when we do go live, which of course is every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And also, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and anywhere else that has social media.
Prevalent, yes.
Yep, exactly. Now, of course, this is our last episode of this series, which means that after today's episode, tomorrow, actually probably on Friday, we will be choosing the winner of the 4-channel Spyclops Pro PoE NVR kit. So again, just to go over what's going on, if this is the first time you're checking out the episode, go back and look at the other episodes. Leave a comment on those episodes, because every time that you watch another episode and leave a comment on that episode is another chance to win this kit here. And of course, we'll be drawing the winners for this this Friday, which I believe is the 12th, and so that we can get that out there for you.
Tell me what's in this kit, Adam.
So this is a 4-channel 4K PoE NVR kit, which is expandable up to 16 channels. It's a 4-channel because it's got 4 PoE ports on the back of it. So if you did want to expand it, of course, you just have to put in a PoE switch and add additional cameras to it. So it's a really great piece. Up to 16 total, so 12 more cameras. Yep, exactly. Now this one does come with a 1 terabyte hard drive, so it's got plenty of space to store those 4 cameras. If you do expand, I would recommend upgrading it to a little bit of a larger size, but it's an easy swap out. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
So that's what's going on with that. So Brent, you told me before we got into today's episode to be ready.
Yes, because now Adam, as usual, gave me a long list of questions to ask, because this really is his pigeon, not mine. However, we're not going to do that.
You're just going to throw all my notes, the notes that I worked very hard on.
And I appreciate those, because you put them in fonts big enough for me to read.
Yep, once again.
But this is not what we're going to do.
Yep.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to be the homeowner.
Ah, perfect.
I'm going to tell you what I want in my system. I'm going to lay out my goals. And then you, sir, are going to design me a system to meet my criteria. And in the process, tell our viewers why you're doing what you're doing. So,
you're going to be one of those customers, aren't you?
Not just one of those. I'm going to be that customer.
That customer.
So get your pencil.
So we're going to take basically what we've learned so far, and we're going to apply it now, right?
Yes,
that's the idea. Or I'm going to apply it anyway. So.
You are. I'm just going to sit back and write the check at the end.
You're going to enjoy it. Where's the check? Are we actually doing this now? Am I going to get paid for this?
And
yeah, come on. I need somebody to run some wires for me.
Okay, so get your pencil.
I got it.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to cover everything I plan to put in my house. I'm going to throw a few surprises in on you.
Ah, all right, perfect.
So let's start at the top.
Okay.
I want video surveillance because you know what? I don't trust my neighborhood.
Sure.
So I think I'm going to put 16 cameras in.
Okay.
IP cameras, because that's what my custom integrator and all the internet told me I got to have.
Sure.
So I'm going to have 16 cameras.
So 16 cameras.
Now, my brother has a Ring camera, so we're going to put 2 of those in.
Are you sure you want a Ring camera?
Yes, I am sure I want a Ring camera. We're going to have 2 of those.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to have 4 TVs in my house.
4 TVs.
That are going to have streaming media devices connected to them. Probably Amazon, because they're cheap.
Okay.
I've decided I'm going to do a control system. And against my better judgment, my CI tells me that I should have Control 4.
Okay.
And I'm going to have 8 touch panels.
8 touch panels.
8 touch panels. And I guess whatever interfaces I need for the local TVs.
Okay.
I'm also going to have lighting control. Now, because my previous house did not have Control 4, we're not doing Control 4 lighting.
Okay.
So we're going to pick another brand, and it doesn't really matter which one it is.
Sure.
But it will be IP controlled.
Okay.
Let's see, and of course, I'm going to have visitors because, damn it, my house is going to be on the beach.
Perfect.
So I'm going to have visitors. And, of course, my family.
Now it makes sense why Brent's systems always need servicing.
He's got a lot of stuff in his systems, right? So, Brent, tell me about, first off, let's back up to the family. How many family members?
4.
4? Okay, so you, your wife, and 2 kids?
2 kids, yeah.
Okay. All right, so 4 people in the family. Mm-hmm. Okay. By the way, guys, while you're watching us do this, if you have any hints or any ideas for what should go into Brent's system for the design process, let me know in the chat over on the side. Again, remember, this is your opportunity to be put into the runnings for winning that 4-channel kit. Leave me a comment over in the chat section over here on the side, or if you're watching this after the fact, leave me a comment down below, and we do watch those and monitor those as well.
And if you just feel the desire to laugh at Adam along the way, please do so.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, because I'm a reasonably understanding guy, I'm going to give you a place to put a rack.
Okay.
And
wonderful.
I'm even going to make it air conditioned.
Ooh.
Because, damn it, I don't want to replace my gear. I'm a cheap fella.
Okay. So why do we have a rack system, Brent, if we've got 4 TVs and we've got streamers with
Because
the TVs?
I've also got distributed audio.
Perfect.
And by the way, we're going to do streaming sources for that as well.
Okay.
And just because I'm old school, we're going to do 2 DirecTV satellite receivers.
Okay.
A his and hers that can follow us around to any television.
Okay.
Which means I assume a matrix.
All right. So we're getting far into now. We're going to go through this.
I'm less concerned about the AV side.
Sure.
However, there's still going to be control of these devices.
Exactly.
Oh, and Rokus.
Now, the Rokus are going to be going into the matrix, or they're going to be going to the TVs?
Yeah, I think so, and I tell you why.
Okay.
Because that way it can follow me to my different TVs, to my man cave, or my living room, or my screen in the bathroom.
How many Rokus? 3? 2?
I don't know. I see 4 members, 4 Rokus.
4 Rokus. That'll work. Okay.
So,
got a pretty good idea. So
this is what I want. Now, again, I'm open to ideas, changes, speculations, whatever they feel I should have that I've left out of this job.
Uh-huh.
Anything that will make your life just a little bit more difficult. Oh, wait, I'm not done. You're going to love this part.
Oh, here we go.
Because I live on the beach, I have hurricane glass, and I want my Wi-Fi to work outside.
Wi-Fi outside. Okay.
I forgot about that.
Yes, yeah. And you've got hurricane glass.
Yes, I do.
Of course you do. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you live on the beach, right?
Yes.
So there you go.
160 mile an hour wind protection hurricane glass.
The experts say, this system sounds very familiar.
Well, I wonder. I can promise you it's not my home.
No. All right. So
Adam's maybe. You know, he lives in the country. He's making the big bucks.
Of course, yeah. So, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take all this information that Brent's given us, and we're actually going to follow, if you all look at the description of today's episode, you'll find that the show notes are in there. I've started to do this now where you all have
And
the show
by the
notes.
way,
You can kind of follow along.
legitimately, I have not seen the show notes.
Yeah, no, the brand new, I just finished it like 5 minutes ago. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with our show notes with a pretty standard practice when it comes to system sales, right? This is actually something that should be done at the very beginning. The client walks into your shop or gives you a call on the phone or whatever it is, and they start off with this list of things that Brent just dropped onto my plate here. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we show, or that we take this time and interview the client. As much as the client is interviewing you during this time, you need to be interviewing the client and finding out exactly what it is that they're looking for. So we want to find out what the end goal of the client is, or find out what type of system the client wants or needs.
I want everything for nothing.
Well, so putting money aside, we'll get to the money here in a little bit. Now, and let's be honest, that's the very important part, but that's not in today's episode, but that is a really good thing to talk about as well when we get into sales. So one of the important things that we need to cover is, what are you expecting out of this system when it comes to Wi-Fi? What are you expecting out of the system when it comes to hardwired devices? Do you have a computer that's going to be hardwired, a gaming system that's going to be hardwired? We need to make sure, are you planning on using any kind of...
I saw on the internet, everything's wireless now.
So, there's a lot of stuff that are wireless, and many things have wireless capabilities and hardwired capabilities, but that doesn't mean that wireless is the best option during that time. And actually, in reverse, sometimes it's a better option to use wireless versus a wired connection. So we really just want to find out exactly what should be used for that device. And so this is part of that interview process. This is that thing that you want to know. Okay, let's get into it. The experts say, oh, it's a $5,000 budget, right?
What the hell? They must have them big hitting jobs.
That's a $1,000 budget right there. Okay, so and in reality, these are things that we need to know. We need to find out if we look specifically at the network itself, the important parts of it that the client is expecting how it should work. So Wi-Fi coverage, they want, of course, now that's a pretty easy one. You don't want bad Wi-Fi coverage, right? You've already
No.
told me that you want to have your Wi-Fi outside so that you can sit on the patio
Yeah.
and look at the waves.
More importantly, when I'm sitting out there in my hot tub enjoying that sunrise, I want my internet to work.
Right, exactly. So these are things that we need to ask them and find out, what are they expecting out of this system? Because if they're just expecting just the ability to browse the internet and that's it, guess what? You just made a pretty simple system. If they're using their service provider's access point on on their router piece, there's not a whole lot more that you need to do with it if they're just wanting to do that. Now, if they're having coverage problems or something else, a lot of times, let's say, for instance, same scenario, you walk in, you say, you want all this stuff. By the way, I've been using the service provider's router, and it's garbage because my house is, what is your house built out of?
Well, it's on the beach, so concrete and rebar.
Concrete and rebar. So,
By the way, my interior walls are also concrete.
yes, they are.
And rebar.
Yes, they are. Ask me
Because
how I
I'm
know.
on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
The expert estimate, but is a comment there.
Yeah, the $5,000 budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we look at the interviewing the client is really important to verify and make sure that we are managing their expectations for what they're going to get out of this system.
They mentioned 3 floors.
Oh, it's 3. Oh, this is good information. It's three stories, right? Mm-hmm. 3 stories. Master on the top floor?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean,
so
I'm paying for the view, right?
of course. So when we look at all of this, we need to make sure that we take that into consideration. That's probably one of the first things that we should do is make sure that the client understands what it is that they're getting themselves into. $5,000 is not going to be enough money to cover the networking portion of this job.
I can't just go down to the Blue Box store and buy myself a $49 wireless hub and I'm happy?
You can. I'm not going to.
Oh, you're that guy.
I'm that guy. I'm the one making sure that we understand that if we're going to make this system work the right way, we're going to do it the right way. So we also need to know certain things. Who is the service provider for your area? Is it Comcast? Is it AT&T? Is it some little, little service provider that's out there? Are you on satellite internet connection? Because that's all very important information as we go into designing the system and, again, managing expectations. You come into let's say, for instance, you live on the beach, that's fine, but you live on the beach in the middle of nowhere where there is no internet connection, no hardline internet connection except for like a, really bad dial-up internet connection, and you've got HughesNet. But you come in and you say, well, I want 4 Rokus. Well,
Maybe not.
maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't do 4 Rokus. Yeah, the experts say, go pick up an Eero. Not for nothing. Now hold on. To Eero's credit, they have a decent product. When we talked about our Wi-Fi episode, we talked about the differences between the different types of Wi-Fi connections. One that I missed on was actually talking about the Eero and like the Google Home Wi-Fi systems, where it's the mesh style. And honestly, they're really great products for consumers. They're really great setups for that. Or if you're in a specific project that you need to have a hardline connection for a device, that has to be wireless. And so certain devices like NVRs or DVRs, they need that hardline connection, but they don't have a line going to them. So you can put in something like an Eero and you can get that connection. So really good point on that. Thank you for bringing that up. So are you going to be using Internet of Things devices? Like,
Yes, I am.
Okay, what are you going to be using?
Well, I'm going to have some lights, because let's face it, nobody's going to wire every frickin' place I want for a light switch.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to have to control a light or 2 or 5.
Okay. Are you going to be using any kind of voice command system?
Yeah, I keep hearing about this fancy voice command. It's not Alexa, it's Jasper or Jasmine or...
Josh?
That's the one.
Josh. Okay, so we'll use something like that. So...
Because Alexa doesn't like me.
Do you have an accent?
Really?
Voice assistants. There we go. So voice assistant. So when we look at...
Well, at least you spelled assistants out. I thought you were just
sure,
going
I was going to leave it
Yeah.
ASS, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, like I said in the show notes, this is the time where we need to manage their expectations because, again, hey, you've got HughesNet and you want 4 Rokus on your system. That's fine. I'm happy to do that for you. However, be aware, because of your internet connection, you will run into problems with streaming unless you want to look at
I'm not going to get
pixelated
4K
stream.
HDR?
You could get 4K HDR on
All
one
four
stream.
at the same time?
No, you can get it all on one stream.
But
maybe.
But.
Oh yeah, no, not for the system he is proposing. Yeah, the experts are saying Eero, definitely not for this system. Yeah, no, Eero is definitely not the choice for this one. For the consumer grade, single story, wood construction house where they just need to have a simple system
Wi-Fi.
put in there. It's the system that I put in my parents' house because it was honestly super simple, and I just threw it in there, and they're perfectly
So
happy with
basically,
it.
you really don't care about your parents.
I don't know what you're saying. Anyways, I love my parents. Get out of here. Okay, last thing. During this time, keep logs. This is the time where we need to make sure that we are tracking everything that the client is asking for, because at the end of this job, they have a checklist either in their head or written down somewhere that they're going to go back over this system and they're going to say, hey, I asked for this, and you said that you could do it without any problem. So this is the time that you have to write down all
More
of those
importantly, I'm
requirements.
going to remember things I didn't ask for and tell you I did.
That's a different
But
college course entirely.
But I'm going to remember stuff that I didn't ask you for. It's
So-
like, well, wait a minute, why doesn't it do this?
Now you can do this really well. We talked last week about different tools that are out there for like Android phones, iPhones. There was one, and actually the experts, you recommended it as well. It's one that you can purchase. It costs money to do Wi-Fi scanning or RF scanning. This is the time to start talking about that setup. So photos, emails, texts, screenshots, all that kind of stuff, keep those logs. This is where we really want to start doing that. So now, and actually I missed it. I didn't hit the button right. I'm going to skip forward a little bit.
You broke it already?
I did broke it already. See if I can get this to actually work now. We got a new logo, by the way. Very happy with it. Let us know what you think about it. So that was during the interview process. So now that we're past the interview process, now we need to get into looking at the actual job. Let's look at the location where this is going to happen. So client, you've come in, you've told me what it is you're looking for. I've asked you some questions, things like, okay, so you want you want cameras at your location. Do you want those? What do you want those cameras to do? Do you want those cameras to be PTZ cameras where they can move?
No, I want a surf cam.
Okay.
I want a surf cam.
Okay.
I want a surf cam.
Yep.
I want to know if I should get up in the morning or not.
Sure.
I need to look at my driveway. I need to look at the passing. I got a circular drive. I want to look at that, both doors. The ring is simply because I want to get announcements when somebody's there. And
Gotcha.
not get driven crazy by the drive-bys on the road on the other system.
Yes. So we're going to assume that we're going to use 6 IP cameras in this aspect because there's other things that have happened that an IP camera makes sense for. We got the 2 Ring cameras. We've got the 4 TVs. It's a Control 4 system, so we already
not
know.
just any Ring cameras. I want the Ring Elite camera because I saw on Yelp that's the one I want.
Okay, we'll do it. Sure, why
And
not?
it's hardwired.
Okay. Is the house built already?
Well, yes.
Well, yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, again, now we're getting into things where we're managing expectations. Well,
Oh, guess what the walls are?
they're concrete. So,
Poured.
Yeah. So with that said, they're poured concrete. They're not
Of course
concrete
they are.
blocks. They're not. Yeah.
Well, they are
So-
blocked, but they're poured.
Yeah, they're poured inside of it. So
It's on the beach.
this is where we get into making sure that, hey, okay, that's great. You want the Ring cameras that are this? That's wonderful. However, unfortunately, unless you're willing to do major overhaul of your house, we're not going to be able to run a wire unless there's already a wire
I can do
in
this
place.
for 5,000, right?
No.
5,100?
No. Moving
Well,
on.
I don't like you.
So this is where we say, okay, you want the 8 touch panels. Now, again, 8 touch panels. Those are normally hardwired touch panels. Those usually need PoE power. Or, of course, they do have the options where they can be doing it over Wi-Fi, but you have to have power there, local there nearby.
Yeah, I would rather be PoE so I don't see any wires.
Okay, is the wire already there?
And sure, I'll say yes because
We don't want to get too locked out of this
Yeah.
one, right? Okay, so we're going to assume that we've got wiring there.
we're building. Actually, let's step back. We're building the house from scratch.
Okay,
Which
perfect.
makes it even more difficult because you have no idea what's going on. You can't do a Wi-Fi survey.
I can't do a Wi-Fi survey. So this is where your experience comes into play. This is where you've had the opportunity to go out there and try it on other jobs, find out, well, concrete's going to give us troubles. call up your networking rep, the rep that you deal with. So if you deal with Luxel, if you deal with PackEdge, Arachnus, Cisco, whoever it is you deal with, talk to them about their Wi-Fi systems. They will help you design it. If you give them the blueprints, a lot of times they'll be able to go ahead and help you. Ruckus is also another really good one. They'll be able to help you with that design to make sure that you have good Wi-Fi coverage. And this goes into things where he was saying that you have hurricane windows, because of course you're living on the water. Hurricane windows don't let Wi-Fi through at all. I mean,
ask us how we know this.
Yeah. They do let the Wi-Fi through, but that's only because it gets through the cracks on the side of the doors. It doesn't actually get through the window itself. So,
Not that far.
yeah, exactly. So, with that said, these are things that we need to ask. This is the time to ask that. So,
Look
now
at
that
that,
we've
you
done all
actually
that,
covered this in the notes.
I did. Yeah. Which one?
Down under 3, physical restrictions.
Yeah, physical restrictions. Yep. So, system type. So now that we've gone through, we've figured out that the client wants control 4. That's great. Wonderful. Now we know that we need a really good network backbone. We know that the client wants to have 4 TVs. They want to have remote. They want to have a centralized distribution system of some kind, and Roku's and streaming and Wi-Fi coverage and all that.
Don't
right?
forget my guest network.
And you have a guest network, which is really important again, and we'll get to that later on in the episode. So now, what type of system is this? Well, we already know because they have control 4. So you've got your basic Wi-Fi systems, which I talked about before, where they can just use either an Eero system or the ISP service, supplied router. You can have a home office. Now, home office changes things a little bit because now we usually have more hardwired devices. We have printers that are, you should hardwire because it's just better for the printer to be hardwired. The computer itself, if they have a desktop computer, have it hardwired. Or even if it's a laptop, give them a hardwired connection that's around where the laptop is. That way they can have that hardline connection. Then we get into things like a control or automation system. That's where we are here with this system where, again, even that part of it can be scaled. You can go from a really small system where it's 1 or 2 rooms, all the way up to controlling the entire house off of the automation system. So these are important things to consider as well.
Because I'm lazy,
Yep.
I want my entire house on the automation system.
Everything.
Everything.
Got
The
it.
garage door, the cameras, the ring, I forgot my thermostats.
Got your thermostats.
Don't forget
Now
my
that-
thermostats.
Now we did kind of talk about that. That's kind of like our IoT, our Internet of Things device. So now, on
and
top
don't
of all
forget my
that,
fan controller.
okay, what kind of fans?
I got, remote control fans in the ceiling,
Wanna
RF
do-
controls.
Want to do a big ass fan?
And I'll have a big ass room.
See, I'm allowed to say that because it's the name of a brand.
But I don't have a big ass room.
But you're saying it now, and you're going to get us in trouble on YouTube. I'm telling on you. Anyways, so control automation system is what we're going with. Now, there's also things that you could run into as well. Take into consideration: is this a small business? Is this a medium-sized business? If it's a medium-sized business,
I don't have a hairdressing business.
yeah, you're not
or
going to be doing any of that in there.
my shop,
But
no.
let's pretend in those aspects, make sure, is it a small business? Well, guess what? You need to have a lot of PoE, or not PoE switches. You need to have a lot of networking switches out there so that all the computers that are on their network can be hardwired into the network. You don't want to put them on a Wi-Fi connection. So, now that we've gotten out of the system type, let's see if I can hit the button right here. Da-da-da.
Dun, dun, dun.
System type, got
Ooh,
that.
that's pretty. Where'd it go?
Wait, hang on. Got the next one coming in. Hang on.
Are you sure?
Nope. Not really. Here we go. Let's try it now. There we go. Number 3, physical restrictions. Isn't that nice? That's a nice,
it's pretty. It sure
nice
took a
little
lot
thing,
to
right?
get there.
Yeah. Anyways, here we are. Okay. So physical restrictions. We kind of talked about this. What is the site? Find out what the physical limitations are that you're going to run into. So
The blueprint is your buddy.
the blueprint 100% is your buddy, and make sure it's an up-to-date blueprint.
You're funny.
Ask us how we know. So this is one of those things. If you are working with if you're working closely with the designer of the house, try to as much as possible, because you really want to make sure that if the client has changed things in the house, you want to get an updated blueprint to that so that you know exactly what's going on. For instance, we ran into an issue where there was a wall that was not there at one time, and we come back and we start looking at it again and the blueprints again, and about 6 months later we get to see the blueprints. Actually, in fact,
It's an as-built.
it's an as-built, and in fact, if I remember correctly, it was built, and we showed up, and
It was gone, and then they built a new one.
and they built a new one in its place. So
Different,
the
but
blueprints didn't really help us in that aspect. But if you can get those blueprints, because that's
they
one of those
do
things.
give you a starting place.
If you're doing this for pay or for a job, an actual job, rather than something that we're just doing for people that we know, in that aspect, this is something that you can use to say, I'm really sorry that things aren't working out the way that we want it to. However, you changed something in the blueprints and we were not notified. Those are really important things. Again, log what's going on when you go into it. Notes are so incredibly important. Important. So
let's get to the design phase.
Yeah. So
because we're starting to run out of time.
Yeah, we are. We're already up to 327. So, Wi-Fi coverage restrictions. We want to make sure the construction materials, find out what they are. We know at this job, we've got concrete. The size of the location. You said it's 3 stories tall. Really important. How large are those spaces?
We're looking at probably 1,500 square per floor.
Okay, so we're looking at 4,500 square feet.
Yes, we are.
Give or take, a couple hundred feet. Okay, so that's what we know. Interference devices. Now, this is really important because
Everything.
where's your kitchen?
Well, it's on the 2nd floor on the north end because I want to still be able to look out to my side and see the beach.
Is it going to be open to everything in that floor?
Of course it is.
Okay, that's good because that usually means that the microwave is going to be on one of the outside walls of the house, which means that you have the lessened chance of having to fight with the 2.4 gigahertz problems that the microwave adds to the system. And that's just one thing.
Then there's always you plan for the Wi-Fi repeater in one location, and then they move the microwave to where the Wi-Fi repeater is.
Yes. So these are things, and now you are getting into the aspect of things change, things happen.
Wire.
Run extra wires. Make sure it's already there in a location where you can get to it. Make sure it's in a place where they're saying, oh, I'm never going to have the whatever over there, but guess what? You ran it just in case, and guess what happened? They moved it. So, yeah, run extra wire. Be ready to let be a duck. Make sure the water droplets just roll off your back and just kind of go with the flow and get the job done, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're really trying to do. So, in those aspects, let's pretend that we've got everything dialed in, and the client's okay to not change anything. Let's assume that until the very end. Well, I'll let you have your fun. I'll let you have some fun with it then, I guess. Now, okay, so we talked about the Wi-Fi coverage problems. Now, what about hardwire pulling restrictions? Now, let's say, of course, that this is a new construction, so that puts us in a really good spot. Now, this is also something that we need to make sure that you get in with the contractor that's building the place, because you need to be known, you need to be a known entity to that contractor. That way they can schedule you in correctly.
It's because we're going to have to bore through the floor with the boring bit to pull my networking wires.
Unless, of course, you have worked with the pourers that are doing the concrete pouring, and you've worked with them and you've already got a conduit put in place. These are good things to do during the construction of this. Now, we're getting outside of the basics of networking at this point a little bit, because now we're getting into more of the, getting the job done correctly, part of it now, where we're dealing with larger systems like that. But that's okay, because it's still important to understand these things, even in the small side, because you're going to run into problems. That Eero system that you set up for a client, well, guess what? That microwave, they just moved it from one location to another, and now one of their extra little Eero pieces that's over in one corner no longer connects to the system, and guess what? They can't see their surveillance cameras anymore. These are important things to pay attention to and notice. Get in there with the contractor, get in there with the guys that are making the decisions. So, hardwire pulling restrictions. Can you get in the attic or the basement? That's a really important thing. Here in Florida, most of the time, we don't have large attics to get into.
And no basements.
And no basements whatsoever. Do you have a plenum space where you plan on running cables?
Yeah, that's New York and Chicago and San Francisco and
it's coming
businesses.
down. It's coming down here. It's getting here pretty quickly. So take that into consideration as well. That make sure you're not running cables in a plenum space that are not plenum rated cables. So you need to make sure that they do that.
You don't want to get a black flag on your job.
That's for sure. And of course, is it running too close to power? Make sure you stay away from power when you're running your Ethernet cables. Really important. Don't run close to power. And again, if you can get in during the design phase and to let the electrician or the electrician drawing designer know where you need to be, they can help with that and make sure you don't make sure you don't get too close. And again, physical restrictions, use your scan tools, the tools that we were talking about before. Make sure that you use those, take screenshots of the area. See, are the neighbors in the area, are they going to be, intruding on your Wi-Fi coverage?
It is worthwhile to have just a basic Euro with a couple of repeaters that you can take out to the job, even if you have to remote power it just to put them around the house, to get an idea of what kind of coverage you're going to get from the Wi-Fi units.
I would even take it a step further. The networking brand that you work with, go ahead and order in one of their access points. You don't have to necessarily connect to the access point. You just need to see how strong the Wi-Fi signal is.
You just need to make sure
in
that you've
area.
got signal in that area.
Take it with you and tell your client, let's say pretend that the house is already built. Tell your client, hey, this is part of my Wi-Fi coverage test equipment. And you just bring it in there, put something on it that shows that it's a Wi-Fi test device, that not to put it into any installation. Take it around the space, use your scanner and find out how good is the Wi-Fi coverage if I put it over here? How good is it if I put it over there? It's not going to be
just like
perfect.
finding the spot for your subwoofer.
Yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but it's a way to test it and find out, am I going to get a decent coverage if I put it in this room, right? So.
Now we need to get to the important things because we got to cover 6 weeks worth of class here.
Yeah, we do.
And you're running out of time, so build me a system.
So rinse and repeat steps 1 through 3 because this is really important as well. So rinse and repeat steps 1 through 3 because here's the thing: you're going to find something during the physical restrictions phase of finding out about this project that you're going to have to go back to the client and explain that, hey, this is what we've run into. And so we need to change the design of the system based on that. You are managing their expectations during that time. So this is also a good time that the client has maybe had more opportunity to be like, oh, okay, that's fine. Oh, by the way, I'd like to also be able to do this. I'd also like to be able to do Wi-Fi controlled LED garden lights. Or something. I don't know. Something like that, right? So that's one extra thing that you know now. Okay, great. Now we can, make sure we have something out there to make that connection. Okay. Now, let's design that system. Hit the button. Da-da-da. And, ta-da! Now we can begin mapping our network. So, I'm excited about this part. So I pulled something together for you. And I've talked about this before. But we're now actually getting to it. Let's see, turn this off. And we're going to go over here to 4. And we're going to do this. Okay, so what I'm going to put on the screen is our network map worksheet. So this is just a lot of information. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at here. This is that thing that you can use during your design phase to ensure that you've got all the equipment where it needs to be. And this is the thing that you use during the installation phase to, again, make sure you've got all the equipment where it needs to be on the network. This is also a thing that you can use during the troubleshooting phase.
Now, when you say where it needs to be on the network, please explain.
So, and that's actually a really good question because I mean it in almost every sense of the word.
Look, I'm doing my best to lead you here.
Oh, yeah,
Help me.
I appreciate that. So, and what Brent's, of course, talking about is where is it on the network? So, of course, one of the first things that we need to make sure that we understand is that, okay, we've got our IP, where is it on the network? Where's the IP address of this device? So, let's jump into it. We've got our device here. Then we're going to use a Luxel router because, of course, that's who I've used whenever I've done that. This is the router. We're going to call this, what is that? What were they on, the Epic 5 or something like that, I think? Okay, and then of course we can give it a label. If we know what the MAC address is of the device, we can type it in here.
And that should be on the box or the back of the device.
Correct, yep. And I'm actually going to move it over because I hit the wrong button. The physical port of that device. So this is what's really great because the physical port, we know where this device is plugged in.
Wait a minute. You're actually going to label which wire goes in which port?
Yes. Yes. So this is don't give me too much trouble.
I'm just asking.
So this is a really great tool for this to know, okay, what wires are plugged into this device or what is this device plugged into on the switch or what port?
And where?
And where?
Because we have had ports fail.
Yeah. So we're going to say that this is plugged into the modem port 1. So I'm going to shorten that down to just M1. It's also going into a future switch that's plugged into, let's see, we're going to call it master bedroom switch it's going to be plugged into port 8, right? So there we go. All right. So now we get into things like port forwarding. Do you have to do any port forwarding for this device? This device, no, it's a router. I'm not doing any port forwarding for this device. I'm using this device to do port forwarding, so I don't need to do anything there. And look, I can type in the the username and the password for this device, as well as any additional notes for this device. This is where you can go in and say, this device is mounted to the underside of the rack. If I can spell correctly. See? Look at that. Perfect. Wonderful. This is a really great way to keep notes, logs. These are the things that you really need on these systems. Keep all these notes. Now,
Is that spreadsheet available to our dealers?
It is, or it will be shortly. I've actually sent it off to the web, the guys that handle our website, so that it will be available for you on the website as well. So I'll make sure that when it is available, it's in the link in the description of this video. Or if you have questions for it, let me know and I can send it to you directly. Now, you'll also notice that I have on here VLANs. So what we can do is look at, over here, we've got the different VLANs. So I've got VLAN 1, VLAN 2, VLAN 3, VLAN 4, and VLAN 5. So Brent, your new house that you're building, you have a lot of guests come over.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I mean, I live on the beach. Why wouldn't they?
Of course. So you have a lot of guests coming over. So that means that we need to have a guest network in this system, correct?
I did ask for one.
Yes, you did. So in that case, we're going to go ahead and make sure that the guest network is VLAN. By the way, go back and check that episode out about VLANs over here. So what I can do is I can name this VLAN
Guest?
specifically guest. Now, these are things that this is the design phase. I'm doing this during the design phase. So I can't read if that's guest or not. I'm on a tiny screen over there. So what we do at this point then is we can say, okay, great, guest is this. So on this network map, what I'm able to tell is where everything is. Is this device on the VLAN? Is this device on the primary VLAN where all of the control systems are? Is it on the main VLAN where the homeowner is doing all of their browsing? Is this on the guest VLAN? On the guest VLAN, there shouldn't be anything. We also put in here as well, down towards the bottom, you can put in information like the SSID of the Wi-Fi that's for that VLAN. Just really, really important. This is a really great tool for that. You can put it in here. What I like to see, of course, is, let's say for the Control 4 system, what I can do is I can go back here to the front, and I can say, okay, so where we are here, we are into our network equipment. So I can say, okay, I like to put all the network equipment here at the front of the IP addresses. And I can say, okay, well, I've got a smart switch. So this is a PoE managed switch. Device name, this is our surveillance switch. Right? And we can type in the MAC address, type in the physical port. We can say, you know, where it's going to and whatnot, yada, yada, yada. So I can put all this information here, and guess what? Now I know exactly where it's at. So let's say, of course, we've got our PoE managed switch. We've got another PoE managed switch over here, but this one is the Control 4. This is the one that's actually powering the touch panels. So then from there, we'll go down here, and here we are. The PC, oh, one more. Let's see. Control system IP addresses. So now we can say, okay, great. So I've got a Control 4, EA5, so on and so forth. Using this is a way to guide you on where to put all of your equipment. Now, here's something as well. You'll notice what I did up here was actually not the right way to do it. Well, it can be the right way to do it depending on how many switches we have. So let's say, for instance, I'm using the Luxel-based system, which has a centralized Wi-Fi controller, right? So the centralized Wi-Fi controller, I could put it at IP address 192.168.1.4. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave room for expansion. I'm going to put it here. Leave room for expansion.
Please.
Yeah, please. Because even during this design phase, you're going to add a bunch of things. During the installation phase, you're going to add things. 4 years down the road, you're going to add things. These are important areas to have.
36-inch belt ain't going to fit you for very long. You better get a 38.
Exactly. Get ready for it. So, or go in the opposite direction, right?
Not in my lifetime.
So when we look at the system, then we need to make sure that we've got all of this here. Log all of this setup here. So, Brent, you said, of course, you have a guest network. You also have your family on one of 4 as well.
Secure network for
and
my family.
on a separate secured network, correct? So we're going to
Yes.
get that into its own separate secure network. Are you doing any work from home?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I am.
So we're going to put your computer onto the network for working from home.
Okay, first off, I do work.
No comment.
Now, the nice thing about this is that your computer, it's a desktop computer, right? It doesn't go anywhere.
It's a Mac.
So we're going to give it a static IP address, right? It's
Okay.
going to live there at the house. Now, I'm not going to give it a static IP address on the Mac itself or on the computer itself. I'm going to use DHCP reservation, which was all the way back on the first episode of this 6-part series. Go back and check that out. Again, watch that video, leave a comment for a chance to win the 4-channel system. So, really, really great tool for all of this. This is something that I really recommend using because it just covers so much to do. Okay, so.
Now, while you're on this page, do I need to VLAN my security separate from my normal usage of my phones and my laptops and my iPads? Do I need to VLAN my automation system? Do I need to VLAN my thermostats? Do I need to VLAN my touch panels? How much segregation do I need to do?
So, come on up. So, we've got when we're talking about VLANings, and actually that was a really great question because we did an episode on
Was
VLANs.
was that in your question?
It was, actually. It was.
Really?
It was. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, damn
Number
it.
4, part B.
I thought I was ahead
Right?
of you.
Yeah, see? I'm getting pretty good, right? So, yeah, VLANs. VLANs are really important. Make sure you've got your system VLANed out. Make sure that you
and
can
quick
say.
question.
Yeah.
How many VLANs can I have?
That was a really good question because we did get that question. So,
Yes, by the way, and thank you.
yeah. So, technically, you can have as many VLANs as you want.
Don't.
Don't. The more overcomplicated you make it, the more chance that you create options for errors. Not so much errors because of the equipment, but errors because of your own human error.
Yeah, you still have to parse all this stuff out yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And now, granted, if you need to have a lot of VLANs, use that guide that we had up there. You just add another page to that VLAN or to that network map so that you can make sure that you've got all your VLAN set aside and you know where that equipment is. Really important. So yeah, I would VLAN your system. So in a system like this, I would have a main network, and the main network would be where you are when you're browsing the internet. So this is where your home computer is, your home office computer, the
My
kids'
iPads.
laptops, the iPads, all your stuff that you're doing. Now, this is where things like you're doing your banking and everything else is all on that network. So that's where I would have one VLAN. Second VLAN I would have is where all of the automation system is happening. So the Control4 system, the touch panels, the Rokus, everything else that's there that's doing any kind of streaming or being controlled via IP.
And the video surveillance.
And nope. See?
Ah.
So then I would have a third one where the surveillance system is going. Now on the surveillance system, I would make sure to put in a rule that says, okay, your computer from the primary network is able to cross over that VLAN to the surveillance system and control the surveillance system or view the cameras. Make sure that's there. Put it on its own VLAN so that you can segregate it out and lock it down from anyone who should not have access to it.
And this is why you map it all.
Exactly. Have that map ready for it. I would have a fourth one. I'm going to take it even further.
Okay.
Have a fourth VLAN for Internet of Things devices. Nest thermostats, Alexa, Google, Rings. All of those things don't have a direct connection to the automation system. They first go out to the cloud, and then from the cloud they come back to the automation system. So it
And
doesn't matter if it's
their
on
security
a
is
separate
still
VLAN.
suspect.
Exactly. So leave them on their own VLAN entirely, so that there's no crossover whatsoever for that. And of course, the last network that I would add onto there is the guest network. So the guest network is just entirely locked down. You can even do certain quality of service things. I was just read the comment. FWT left a comment. He says, living on the beach and a Mac, also known as the life.
Well,
You are just living the life, aren't you? I mean, it just.
I am. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
If you're making up a fake scenario, you might as well.
Might as well, right?
I mean,
if
you're
you're
gonna
doing
live
it, if
big,
you're doing it,
live
yeah, exactly.
big.
So, the last thing, wake that back up. So, the last network on there I would have on is, of course, the VLAN for the guest networks. Have them out there on a separate thing entirely. put quality of service on there so that even if they're there, they don't have the full bandwidth capabilities.
Yeah, they don't need to be watching 4K HDR on their
Yeah,
phones.
exactly. You want to use that in the other systems. So now again, leave room for changes. Use that system. It's up there and available. I will make sure that the link for it is put in the description afterwards, or reach out to us directly. You can call us here at 386-492-8584 on our direct line, or you can email me at adamr@metrohometheater.com and just ask me for that, and I will be happy to share it with you if it's not on the website yet. So,
and just for what it's worth, Adam and I, sadly it's not mine, Adam and I did this system, and it is an as-built.
yeah.
So there were significant changes
Yeah.
in the process of this. So there was much we learned
Yeah.
in the process. And the sad part of this whole thing was, as much as Adam's pushing documentation, and we're pushing documentation hard, because ours was not as complete as it should have been along the way.
Yep.
And we're paying for it.
Yep, exactly. So that really is why I'm pushing it, because honestly, I learned my lesson. Take notes.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Don't cut your wires. You think when we our sign off is not just because we came up with it? No, we've lived our sign off. That's exactly why it's there. Is because you don't cut your wires too short. Reboot early, reboot often. We've lived it. So all right. So now the next thing to do.
Stuart came up with another one today.
We'll have to ask him what it was afterwards. Okay, so after we have everything all mapped out, we've got our system designed, we've got everything laid out for us. Now
By the way,
last thing
I do encourage you do all your mapping prior to calling your network rep,
yes,
because the more information you can give him, the better he can help you in picking the product that you're going to need to cover that job and not guess.
yeah. So, and honestly, this is really important. Use that system. When you are doing your mapping of the network, that should be the first thing. Honestly, as soon as that client walks through the door and after you do that first initial interview, you should already have that map open so that you can start designing the system. You can say, okay, they're doing Control 4. It's a large house. I know I need either an EA5 or what was their CA10,
which is supposed to be awesome.
Yeah. I know I'm going to need something like that. I'm going to have to put that in there. Well, great. You already know that you can put that on the system. Use that spreadsheet to know where to put it on that system as well, and start keeping track of all that stuff. Then
and power demands.
And power demands. As you move into the rest of the system, then you can make sure to know, okay, well, now I can add in some more stuff to it. Leave room for improvement. Leave room for expansion. So, now we need to do the installation.
Well, I'll leave that up to you. I'm the homeowner. I'm just writing the check. I'm going to go over here, sit down, and watch you sweat.
Guess what? Now that you're doing the installation, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to have these logs and notes, because you're not having to think. You're just having to do the work now. It's not you've already done the thinking part of it. You just have to do it now.
Label your cables, label your ports, know where the stuff's going, and we were fighting an issue one day on this that turned out to be a bad port.
Yeah.
And thank God for documentation.
Yeah.
Because at least
I learned my lesson before this happened, so I had it.
You got a couple of 48 port switches that are full of wires.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice to know where stuff is.
The experts are saying that Ruckus requires a map whenever you work with them.
Awesome.
That's wonderful. Good for them for that. That's really amazing.
And as
it's
I'm
good
sure
practice.
Anybody that's talked to Adam or I know, when you call in, the very first thing I do is I want to know what's in the system, how it's connected, whiteboard behind my desk that's 4 foot by 8 foot that I use regularly, and notepads, because mapping is important to all of us.
Could you imagine if we got an HDMI tech support call and we start asking them questions? They say, "Hang on, let me send you the map of the layout."
We had a couple of them make maps for us.
Yeah, well, like having them have it all written up like that, so where you had all the information, the serial numbers, the ports that everything was connected to, firmware versions that you were on, good information that you should hold on to, especially when you're looking at systems like this. So do the installation, reap the benefits of having a plan. Now,
and by
of
the way,
course,
put the MAC address down.
Be aware, there will be things that you missed during the planning phase. It happens. Just roll with it. Honestly, it's one of those things. It was always frustrating for me whenever things would happen, and you deal with whoever it is you're dealing with that's doing that, and they just get extremely upset. And honestly, you don't get anywhere with that. Just roll with the punches and move along, and just be aware. Be upfront. Hey, Brent, we were doing the installation, and unfortunately we found this problem. We think it was caused by the whoever was doing the installation of this part of the house. We're gonna have to work around it. We've already come up with a fix and a solution. Unfortunately, it's gonna be this X dollars more.
It happens.
It happens. And the thing is they're building a house. They know it happens, or if they don't know it happens, they're gonna learn pretty quickly
idiots.
that it happens. So it happens. Be upfront. These are the times where it's better to go ahead and just explain things that, hey, this happened, let's move on and figure out a solution for it. So, it's not the end of the world, it's just a hiccup. I like that, right? Now that you've done the installation, there we are, do the installation. The last thing to do, of course, after all of that, is collect your money and walk away. Don't walk away too far, because troubleshooting is the next thing that has to happen.
And
so
there will be some.
There will be some troubleshooting. So with troubleshooting, see if I can get this to work correctly.
Do. That's not correct.
We'll run
Where's
with that
the
because
header?
I don't know if I went too far. I'm not going to go back. So last thing is troubleshooting. After you do the installation, there is going to be troubleshooting. These are the times, or this is where you need to make sure that everything is working correctly. You should do things along the way to make sure that things are working for that one part of the installation. You put in a network switch, take a laptop with you, plug it in real quick. Yeah, I'm connected to the network. I'm good to go. I don't have internet access because maybe the ISP hasn't come in and done their part yet, whatever it may be, but you have a network connection.
I promise
that.
you, somewhere down the line, there'll be conflicting addresses.
Yep.
Been there, done that one.
Depending on the size of the project, you could have multiple conflicting addresses.
And it will happen.
But guess what? You've got that log. You can
So you
use
can
that
go
log.
to each of the touch panels and say, hey, that's the wrong address.
That's the wrong address.
Been there, done that one.
Been there, done that. Learned our lesson on that one. The last part of this, of course, is using those logs, map and track those problems. To be honest, use that map. There's sections for notes on the side, but maybe give yourself additional notes at the bottom. I think I might even do a revision and add that. Put in notes that this is the troubleshooting steps that have been taken recently. Leave a log in there of all the different troubleshooting steps that have happened or the different problems that have shown themselves during the installation. These are things that you can use after the fact to say, hey, the Wi-Fi, this one particular Wi-Fi access point keeps dropping out. I keep losing my SSID from this one unit. Guess what? Every time you go back there and look at it, doing a reboot on it makes it work. Well, I'm going to call up the provider of that unit. And I'm going to say, hey, this keeps happening, and I have the logs to show that it keeps happening. Documentation of it. Then they can say, okay, great, we'll go ahead and swap it out. Or if they're being jerks, you can use the logs to show that there's a
I also
problem.
recommend on the spreadsheet that he's created, create a Google Docs version of it, have it accessible to all your technicians.
Yes.
Password coded to each technician.
Yep.
So you can look at days of entry for that document. So if you do remove that employee from your company.
Well, and with the Google Docs things, you can save it to one central account,
and everybody
you can
work on
share it out to the different people, and it logs the changes, so you can see, did somebody make a change to something, and you can go back and revert back to an old version of it.
And having that, the ability to see that on a tablet or a laptop is phenomenal on the job site, because let's face it, you may have to send a new guy out there who doesn't know the system.
Watch out for loops. Yes, when you are dealing, we have firsthand experience, not just at that. Actually, look, I haven't done it yet at that job, and you notice I said yet, but we've done it here on site.
Somebody shut the entire network at the company down one day.
Stuart, I'm going to call him out on it and blast him for this one, but he was messing with something. We were testing some new cameras or whatever, and didn't realize what he was doing. Grabbed the wrong cable and plugged it into the switch, and of course it was just out one port and into the next port of the switch, and it took down our entire network for at least 3 hours or something like that.
Until they hunted it down.
Until he was able to find out exactly what it was that caused it. Yeah, watch out for loops. Yeah, but again, using your notes, you know exactly what should be in that port.
And that's why you label cables.
Yeah, don't plug something in unless you know what it is. That kind of solves that problem there. So, guys, thank you for sticking along with us for the 6-part series if you have so far.
And obviously we covered a lot in a little.
A lot and a little, yeah. There's
Please
a
do
lot
not
more.
hesitate to call and ask more questions about what we covered today.
Yep.
And I can promise you there'll be at least one follow-up on this in the future.
Yep.
Because there's just a lot to know.
And also, don't forget that information, that map is available, or I will make it available. Reach out to me directly if you would like, and I will make sure that you have that as well.
And tell us your horror stories.
Yeah, we would love to hear it. Leave your horror stories down in the
It'd be nice to know that
comments.
we're not the only ones.
Yeah, yeah. What else? What have you run into out on the job site where you during your installation?
If you come behind one of our jobs, don't tell us.
So, guys, with that kind of wraps up our 6-part series. If
Please,
you've left a
don't
comment,
forget to get your comment.
Yep, get your comment out there. Go back and look at the other videos. You have until Friday, Eastern time. We're going to say noon Eastern time to put in your comments on the other videos.
Make it 3 Eastern time, so that gives them noon on the left coast.
Okay, we'll do 3 p.m. Eastern time on Friday, the 10th, or sorry,
pick a winner.
the 12th. We will pick a winner for this unit here, and shortly after that, we will notify them that they've won.
Hopefully they have their email. Well,
we'll reach out to them through YouTube, and we'll be able to get them that way.
so check back.
Yep, exactly. So with that, everybody, again, thank you so much for watching the videos. Yes, you.
I think everyone deserves to know how your 30 push-ups went last week.
30 push-ups. I got 3.
Okay.
He, however, that's Brandon, our producer, in the background, questioning my prowess, which there is none. During last week's broadcast, after I made the discussion about shrinking time in push-ups, he went over to the corner there and knocked out his 20 push-ups in under 30 seconds, just to make me look.
Around 30 push-ups in 20 seconds.
Excuse me, 30 push-ups in 20 seconds with the clap at the end,
Oh, got the clap on it
just
too.
to make me look bad. Which is not hard.
Oh no, it's. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
It's you've been doing this for a while, so it's not too awfully difficult.
No. And on that happy note,
That kind of wraps that up, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Reboot early, reboot often.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC
And call tech support.
and call tech support.
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Have a great. It's only Wednesday.
It is only Wednesday.
Have a great week.
Have a great week. We'll see y'all. Thank you so much.